So my son was recently diagnosed with severe dyslexia, and so that has answered quite a few questions, but it has also made choosing curriculum this year a little bit overwhelming and stressful. Today I'm going to share with you guys what we're using for my 5th grader for this upcoming school year. So this year we are going to try even harder to not focus on checking all of the boxes and focus on some of the areas that he has been struggling with or things that I see really large gaps in. So some of those areas include spelling, math, and also his handwriting. So it's kind of interesting because both of my children have now been diagnosed with varying levels of dyslexia, and the interesting part is that my son with more mild to moderate dyslexia was the one that struggled the most with reading, and it could be because I had used a lot of those resources with my younger son that his dyslexia kind of went a little bit under the radar more. So with all of that being said, it may not look like your stereotypical dyslexia, but he definitely still struggles with a lot of the areas that people with dyslexia struggle with. They may not be just the ones that people are most familiar with. So we're going to start with language arts. I have tons of different things for this. As I said, looking for curriculum has been a little bit of a roller coaster ride because my oldest has struggled in a lot of different ways than my younger son. So a lot of the things that my younger son has used over the years that may have kind of hidden his dyslexia were things like Orton-Gillingham reading and spelling and math using manipulatives and highly visual and things like that that work really well for children with dyslexia. And so a lot of those things we're going to continue to use. And then I also have some things that have worked really well for my older son with dyslexia that I'm hoping will work well for my younger son as well. But as always, even with homeschool, whether you're homeschooling someone who's neurodivergent or neurotypical, it's going to depend per child. So the things that my oldest son struggles with are not things that my younger son struggles with, and vice versa. So let's jump into our language arts. So first and foremost, for spelling, that is probably his biggest struggle. We are going to continue using All About Spelling. We have used this since level 1, and he is currently about halfway through level 3. So as soon as we finish up level 3, we are going to move into level 4. If you are familiar with the All About Learning programs, they do not like go to a grade order, and they, it's not like 3rd grade spelling, it's just level 3. And it also one lesson may take 1 day, or it may take 5 days, or we've even had some that have taken almost 2 weeks. So we are just going to keep going through this. I believe there's 7 levels. So we are going to keep working through this. For vocabulary, this is actually something that his dyslexia evaluator had introduced me to. It is called vocabulary cartoons. This is something that he and my oldest son have been going through this past year, and they really, really enjoy it. It's got cute little mnemonic things to help them memorize words, and it's got cute funny pictures and funny sentences, and they both really, really enjoy it. And so there's also varying levels. There's 2 different SAT ones, I believe. So as we continue to work through this, it's just helping him, learn different words and understand their meaning, a way to help them remember. So this is something that I used with my oldest when he was in 5th or 6th grade, and this is Winston Winston grammar. I have a whole video on that I can put in the eye in the sky up there for you guys to check out. But it essentially is a hands-on grammar program, and it is to help them. He's been doing, like, I kind of want to say an introduction to grammar, like different workbooks and videos and things like that. But this is going to be more of his first official grammar program that he's going to be doing, and so you just use the different cards and you can lay it all out, and it's very visual, very hands-on, and very good for children with dyslexia. So for writing, he is currently in book 2 of Just Right, and that's what I have right here because book 3 is downstairs on my shelf. But we have really been loving this. Again, I have a video where I show you kind of a look inside and everything like that. My oldest completed all 3 books, and so far my younger son, this is the 2nd book, and he's going to move into the 3rd book. After that, I'm not 100% sure what we're going to be doing, but for this year, I know we're going to be using Just Right book 3. He really enjoys it. It's really simple. Something that his dyslexia evaluator did mention to me was trying to let him do the voice to text, and so we have an iPad, and he just gets on the Google document and uses the voice option, and he'll go like in a quiet room with the headphones with the microphone, and he will write out his papers that way. And so that has been helpful. My oldest son is the one that struggles with getting words on paper and ideas and things like that. My younger son isn't really, but he does struggle with, you know, spelling and handwriting and things like that. So this just makes it a little bit easier for him to be able to do his writing and not have to stress constantly that he's spelling words wrong and having good handwriting and everything like that. So this is Explode the Code. I don't recall using this with him. Maybe I used the first book or two when he was maybe in like kindergarten or first grade, but I think we were using something else at the time that kind of incorporated these things. So I remember using it with my oldest, but as I said, he struggles with spelling, and so he actually uses a program called Nessie Reading and Spelling as sort of a tutoring thing to kind of help fill in some gaps, and he really enjoys that. I've noticed a really big like jump in his spelling skills from using that, so it's working really well. And this is kind of similar. If you've never seen Inside, they just do different things. It's actually considered like a phonics supplement or a phonics program. But that has a lot to do with spelling, like chunks and things like that. So I just thought that this would, I got it for my younger daughter, and so she's going into kindergarten. So I just grabbed him one, and I thought that this would be something good he can do maybe on the days where he kind of, there are certain days where, you know, he doesn't really want to do his tutoring, or he's on a really hard level and he's really discouraged, and he you know, kind of doesn't want to do it that day. I thought this would be something, or something independent he could work on and still get that practice without having to, you know, sit and do something that is really discouraging to him. So as far as our like language arts reading type curriculum, you know, where you're learning different things about story elements and all of that kind of stuff, I decided to get the reading journal from Not Consumed this year. This is the elementary level. It says for a complete reading curriculum for grades 2 to 5. They have ones for, I think they have ones for fiction, nonfiction, things like that. They do things like word studies. It does a little bit of vocabulary. It talks about learning to discern, different things like that in here. It talks about main ideas, details, all of that. And the thing I really like about it is that you can pick whatever book you want, because the thing that I don't like about certain book studies is that they're only go with certain books. And so sometimes my kids, I'll pick out all of these books and they decide they don't want to read them. They want to read something else. And having 2 children with dyslexia, as you can imagine, I'm going to let them read whatever the heck they want as long as they're reading. So I thought that this would be really good for this year. And as far as reading, the books that he is going to be reading are going to be coming from mainly from his history and science curriculums. And so there's also some other ones. He's really gotten into Roald Dahl this year. And so if he's getting into a series and super into it, yes, please read it. So as far as our science, let's jump into that. So this year is a little bit bittersweet because I'm going to have a 9th grader. So he is going to be doing his own science, and he is leaving our family science cycle and doing his own thing. And our kindergartner is going to be joining in with my 5th grader. So I have a couple different things. I'm trying to use up things that I actually already have. And so I have a ton of these simple studies. I have other videos on those. I can go over this one if anybody's interested, because I do love simple studies. I especially, the newer editions are for K through 6th grade, which is great. A lot of the older ones are more like K through 4th grade. But so the first one we're going to be doing is Jungle Creatures. So I already have it printed out. I already have the books on my shelf for that. And that is the first one we're going to be doing. If you're not familiar with simple studies, it's more like a living, they call themselves a living handbook. It's less like lesson plans and more like read this, do some notebooking, here's some project ideas, things like that, which works really well when you want to kind of explore different topics and things like that without doing a lot of extra, like more like busy work that people may call it. But for me, there are certain, you know, my children have a hard enough time with the basic subjects. I want them to be able to really enjoy and have fun with the other subjects like history and science. So we're going to do Jungle Creatures. Then he picked out Desert Creatures. So that is the next one we're going to do. I also have this guide. It's from, I think it's called Noeo. I think that's how you say it. No-Yo Science. I got it for $1 at the book swap. So I'm really excited about this. It is biology too, and it's for grades 4 to 6. And so I couldn't really use it with both my boys. So he is going to do it, and then his sister is going to kind of tag along. And this is biology, which is what my oldest is using right now. So we're gonna kind of be, you know, crossing over a little bit there. But there's things in here that we haven't done in several years, or things that he never even really got to do that I did with my oldest. So things, you know, like plants, mammals, things like that, that he doesn't have a lot of familiarity with. So we're just gonna kind of pick and choose out of here. And if you guys are interested, I can go over this. But it's essentially, you do like a reading out of like things like the Usborne Science Encyclopedia. They have them do some experiments, and then they have different things that they do every day. They do some projects. So it's just, they answer some reading questions, things like that. So it seems simple enough, and so we're going to try that this year. So for history, no surprise, but we are doing Biblioplan Year 4, which is the modern history. We're very excited about this. This past year, I've had him start answering the questions. I feel like it's really good practice for him to be able to not only focus on that comprehension and things that he just read, but also to be able to go into the text and search for those things. I know some people are kind of, you know, wanting to do away with that, but for my children in particular, I think it's been very, very helpful for them to comprehend, remember the things that they're reading, understand the things that they're reading. And so I have enjoyed that. We also really, really love the projects that are with Biblioplan and the videos and everything like that. So we're going to continue using Biblioplan for history. Okay, so for Bible, we are going to be doing Who is God? This is from Apologia, the What We Believe series. This is book 1. It is designed for ages 6 to 14, which is just about the exact age range of my 3 older kids that we are going to be doing school with this year. And so we're not going to be doing the notebooking and everything like that. It's going to be more like my older boys will read it, and we will kind of discuss it together. That sort of thing. So this is just something that we can incorporate into their day and get our Bible in without it being like just another curriculum that we have to check mark. All right, now we're into the good stuff, because this is another big struggle for him. So if you're not super familiar with dyslexia, it's kind of confusing for me as a mom, because I talked about this on my channel when he was in kindergarten, but he did an entire BJU kindergarten workbook. He flew through the workbook, and I remember asking him like certain things, and it did not seem like he understood any of the material, because he knew how to find the answer, he knew how to get the answer, but it didn't seem like he was grasping, you know, like numbers as a concept, if that makes sense. So I had him go through Math with Confidence first grade, and again, same thing. There were certain things that he just completely flew through. And so now going into 5th grade, I have started to see a gap now. And so with things like dyslexia, you can have a child who understands procedures and algebraic equations and things like that, but cannot remember basic addition skills, still count on their fingers. So he is over here doing long division, but he cannot, you know, he cannot remember what 6 plus 4 is. And so that is just super confusing to me as a mom, because my oldest son had similar issues with math facts, but it was kind of like a whole, you know, overall difficulty with math. It wasn't certain math topics inside other math topics. It was like a broad overview of math that he struggled with. And so this has been really difficult for me, because it kind of went from 0 to 100. You know, he's really getting math, things are really going well. I'm not seeing any issues other than the kind of little things that I mentioned. But then one day it's just kind of like this big, huge gap. And it's been very difficult for me, very confusing for me, because he works on his math facts every single day. And he gets to a point where he works on them so much. We've tried so many different programs to work on math facts, you know, things like that. You know, things that they say for dyslexia or dyscalculia, which is the learning disability for math, is, you know, use 10 frames, use all of these things. And that is what we've been using since the beginning. So we're really trying to fill in these gaps. We're really trying to go back and focus on these things that maybe can kind of close the gap a little bit. But again, it's just very confusing because he's not needing to go back to kindergarten, first grade math, but at the same time, he needs those gaps filled in. And every time we try to approach a tutoring or things like that, it's like, oh, well, here, practice these math facts. It's like, yeah, that's not the problem. And then, you know, our local tutoring center, they just use Math UC with them. And so, you know, what we're doing this year is we're going to continue to move through with Math with Confidence, 5th grade. He still has a couple chapters left in 4th grade, and then we're going to move into 5th grade. And then as far as helping fill in those gaps, we are going to be using the I think it's called Accelerate from Math UC. It is the addition and subtraction, and they also have a multiplication and division. We also have the books from Math with Confidence, the addition facts, the math facts that stick series. And so we are going to focus on going over those types of things over the, we have a couple more weeks off. We're going to kind of go over those and things like that and really try to help fill in some of those gaps. But yeah, it's just been one of those things where it's like, it just kind of hits you like a freight train, like one day he's super well at grade level, and then the next day it's like there's this huge gap, but at the same time he's still understanding concepts at grade level, but then the basic things that he seemed to know, he cannot memorize them, and that's important when you get to higher level math. So it's just been very confusing, very challenging. I was recently went to a support group for children with learning difficulties, and a lot of people resonated with me. A lot of people, deal with the same struggles, with the same ones that I have with my oldest and my younger son. So it felt very nice to see that I wasn't alone in this. And so if you're watching this and you feel like that's exactly how my child is, I hope that some of these resources will be helpful for you as well. I'll try to give an update and see how those are going, but yeah, it's like some things will work, even like Times Tales. It will work for a while as he's watching them, but then as soon as we don't watch them anymore, he completely, that rote memory is it just doesn't exist. So that's been very, very challenging for us. So with all of that being said, the other thing is handwriting. That is something he has struggled with. He is currently doing cursive, which I have found is a lot easier for him. And so he has been working through, he did The Good and the Beautiful's book 3 last year. This year we are just going to be doing copy work. Long story short, I thought I was going to be doing something else with my kindergartner and 5th grader. And so I have all this copy work just hanging out. And so we're just going to focus on that for the year. I think once you get to book 4 in The Good and the Beautiful, that's what a lot of it is anyway. So as far as extracurriculars, he is going to be doing he hasn't decided if he's going to be doing music or art with his sister, and so they're going to be going to a class at our local studio. And then we're also going to continue doing World Watch News. This is something that we have added in the past, I want to say, few months, and he absolutely loves it. It is his favorite thing to do. He wants to turn it on every single morning, and he watched something on there recently and then ended up watching Live Eagle cams for 3 hours. He just absolutely loves it, and he learns so much from them, and then goes down rabbit trails later. So it's been a really great investment for us. Gosh, I feel like I've been talking for 4 hours at this point, but I think that's everything that we have in here. So my biggest goals for this year are for him to continue to strengthen those math skills, help with his handwriting, and continue the progress in his spelling. I also want him to really continue to grow in confidence, grow in independence in certain areas, because he is in 5th grade now. And so that is kind of what our year is focused on this year. But if you have a child who also is a struggling learner, no matter what the reason is, just know that you're not alone and that we can absolutely do this together. So if that is something you are interested in, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I think I will see you guys next time. Bye.